Don't look so surprised. You know exactly what you did. I want nothing to do with you or this child.
The wind screamed as Amara's body tumbled through the air, her husband's face growing smaller above her. His eyes, those eyes she'd loved for 5 years, held no remorse, only relief. Her hand reached instinctively for her swollen belly as the jagged rocks of Hell's Gate rushed up to meet her. My baby. God, please, my baby. The impact stole her breath, her consciousness, her world. Water swallowed her broken body as darkness claimed everything. 200 feet above, David Okonkwo dusted off his hands and smiled. Hello guys, welcome to my Africantales. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe and share it with your friends, and most important thing, turn your notification bell so you can get informed when I dropped another amazing story. Drop your thoughts and reactions in the comments. What would you do if your spouse tried to kill you and you survive? Will you take a revenge or disappear forever? 6 hours earlier. Close your eyes, David whispered, his hands warm over Amara's face. I have a surprise for you. Amara laughed, her 6-month pregnant belly pressing against the dashboard of their Land Cruiser as they drove through the Kenyan highlands. The afternoon sun painted the acacia trees in gold, and the air smelled of red earth and wild sage. David, you're going to make me carsick, she protested, but she was smiling. Her husband had been distant lately, buried in his safari business, but today he seemed like his old self, playful, attentive, in love. Just trust me, my heart, he said, and something in his voice made her shiver despite the heat. When he finally let her look, they were parked at the edge of Hell's Gate Cliff, the same spot where he'd proposed 3 years ago. The great Rift Valley stretched before them like God's own canvas, endless, beautiful, deadly. Remember this place? David asked, helping her out of the vehicle. His hand lingered on her lower back. How could I forget? Amara touched her wedding ring, tears pricking her eyes. You said you'd love me until the mountains crumbled into the valley. I meant every word. He kissed her forehead, and she missed the coldness in his eyes. Come. Let's walk to the edge. One last time before the baby comes. One last time, she echoed, not knowing how prophetic those words would be. They walked hand in hand along the narrow path. Below them, the cliff dropped into nothingness. Above, eagles circled in the thermal currents. Amara's heart felt full enough to burst. After months of tension, her marriage was healing. David had finally accepted her father's tea plantation inheritance. Everything would be perfect. Amara, David said as they reached the edge. There's something I need to tell you. She turned to face him, her hand resting on her belly where their daughter kicked and rolled. What is it, my love? His phone buzzed. He glanced at the screen, and Amara saw the message preview before he could hide it. Is it done? Z. David? Who's Z? His jaw tightened. No one. Just business. Business. Confusion clouded her features. But David. Zara, he said quietly, and the name fell between them like a stone. Her name is Zara Hassan, and I love her. The world tilted. Amara gripped his arm for balance. What? No. David, we're having a baby. Where? That baby was a mistake. His voice was ice. Everything about us was a mistake. I never wanted your father's farm. I wanted you to sell it, pay off my debts. But you refused. You and your precious family legacy. Tears streamed down Amara's face. I said we could work it out. I offered to help you. Help. He laughed bitterly. I don't need help. I need the inheritance. All of it. And, according to the will, if something happens to you before the baby is born, everything goes to your surviving spouse. He paused. Me. Horror dawned like a blood-red sunrise. David, no. Please. I'm sorry, Amara. I really am. But his hands were already moving, reaching for her shoulders. Zara's pregnant too. With my son. I need to give him the life he deserves. David, no. Her scream echoed across the valley as he shoved her backward. Her feet found only air. Her hands clawed at nothing. Time stretched impossibly as she fell, watching her husband peer over the edge, his phone already at his ear. Police? There's been a terrible accident. My wife, she slipped. Oh God, I couldn't save her. Even his tears were perfect, Amara thought as the rocks rose up to meet her. Then came the water. The impossible, miraculous water. Her body crashed into a hidden spring pool, deep and cold and merciful. Pain exploded through every nerve. Blood clouded the water around her. The last thing she felt before darkness took her was her baby's final kick. Then nothing. Mama and Jerry had been gathering herbs at the base of Hell's Gate for 50 years, and she knew every sound the cliff made. But she'd never heard a scream like that. She found Amara's broken body floating in the sacred spring pool, more dead than alive. Blood stained the water red. The old woman's weathered hands moved with practiced urgency, dragging the young woman onto the muddy bank. Breathe, child. Breathe. Amara's eyes flickered open for just a moment. Wild, unseeing, drowning in agony. Then they closed again. Mama and Jerry pressed her ear to Amara's swollen belly and heard what she'd feared. Silence. The baby was gone. Forgive me, little one, the old woman whispered, making the sign of protection over Amara's stomach. Your mother needs you to go so she can live. For 3 days, Amara balanced on the knife's edge between life and death in Mama and Jerry's small stone house. Fever ravaged her body. Her left leg was shattered. 3 ribs were broken. Her beautiful face was torn and bruised beyond recognition. But she lived. On the 4th day, she opened her eyes. Where am I? Safe, Mama and Jerry said, spooning bitter herbs into her mouth. You fell from a sky like a broken angel. The ancestors sent you to my pool. My baby. Amara's hand flew to her flat stomach, and a sound tore from her throat that wasn't quite human.
No.
No.
She's gone, child.
I'm sorry. Amara screamed until her voice gave out. Then she wept until no tears remained. When silence finally came, it brought something else with it. Something cold and hard and dangerous. Who did this to you? Mama and Jerry asked. But Amara couldn't remember. The fall had stolen her memories like a thief in the night. She knew her name. She knew she'd had a daughter. But everything else was fog and shadows. Rest, the old woman said. Memory will return when you're ready to carry its weight. 9 months later, Amara stood on shaking legs, gripping the walking stick Mama and Jerry had carved for her. Her body had healed slowly, painfully. Her face bore scars that no medicine could erase. But she was alive. She still couldn't remember how she'd fallen or why. You need to go to the police, Mama and Jerry said one evening as they prepared dinner. Someone should know you survived. I don't even know what I'd tell them. Amara touched the scars on her cheek. I can't remember anything. Then perhaps it's not time yet. The old woman stirred her pot thoughtfully. Perhaps you survived for a reason. When you remember, you'll know what that reason is. 8 years later, Amara had built a new life in Mama and Jerry's village. She taught children to read and write in a one-room schoolhouse. She grew vegetables. She learned the old woman's healing arts. She was quiet, gentle, beloved. But at night, she dreamed of falling, of hands pushing her backward, of a voice saying, I'm sorry. Then one day, everything changed. A traveling merchant came through the village selling newspapers from Nairobi. Amara was buying salt when she saw the headline on the business page. Safari mogul David Okonkwo expands empire. Tea plantation venture proves profitable. The photograph showed a handsome man in an expensive suit, his arm around a beautiful woman in diamonds. They stood in front of a massive colonial house surrounded by endless rows of tea plants. Amara's hands began to shake. The newspaper fell to the ground. Miss Amara? Are you all right? The merchant asked. But she wasn't listening. Memories crashed through her mind like a dam breaking. David's face above her, his hands on her shoulders, the text message, Zara's name, the fall, her baby's last kick. Everything. She ran to Mama and Jerry's house, the newspaper clutched in her fist. The old woman took one look at her face and knew. You remember. He pushed me. Amara's voice was hollow. My husband pushed me off the cliff to steal my inheritance. He killed our baby. Mama and Jerry gripped her hands. What will you do? Amara looked down at the newspaper photograph, at David's smug smile, at the mansion that should have been hers, at the life he'd built on her grave. I'm going to take it all back. Her voice was cold as death. And then I'm going to destroy him. Revenge is a dangerous path, child. It's not revenge. Amara's scarred face hardened into something Mama and Jerry had never seen before. It's justice. Amara stood before the cracked mirror in Mama and Jerry's house, studying the stranger staring back. 9 years of grief had carved new angles into her face. The scars, the hardness in her eyes, the way she carried herself. David would never recognize her. Good. You're certain about this? Mama and Jerry asked from the doorway. I've never been more certain of anything. Amara turned away from her reflection. But I need your help. I need to become someone else. Someone he'd want to know. The old woman sighed deeply. I have a sister in Nairobi. She works with a doctor who helps women who've been hurt. He's discreet. Expensive. I have money saved from teaching. Amara touched her face. These scars are memorable. I need them gone. And I need to learn everything about the woman I'm going to become. Over the next 6 months, Amara transformed. The doctor worked miracles, smoothing the worst of her scars with surgery and laser treatments. She could never look exactly as she had before. That woman was dead and buried in David's lies, but she could become someone new. Someone dangerous. She studied business at night, devouring books on investments, real estate, safari tourism. She learned to speak with a different accent, mimicking the polished tones of Nairobi's elite. She changed her walk, her gestures, even the way she laughed. Amara Okonkwo died on those cliffs. But Sarah Mwangi was born from her ashes. 3 months later, Nairobi. Sarah Mwangi stepped out of a black Mercedes wearing a designer suit and confidence like armor. Her hair was styled differently, pulled back in a sleek bun. Her makeup was flawless. Diamond earrings caught the light. She looked like money. She looked like power. She looked like exactly the kind of woman David Okonkwo would want to impress. Her private investigator, a sharp-eyed man named Kamau, had provided everything she needed. David's business records, his social calendar, his weaknesses. And most importantly, the cracks in his perfect life. The safari business was struggling. David had expanded too quickly, borrowed too much. He needed investors.
Badly.
Sarah smiled. Perfect. She walked into the lobby of the Norfolk Hotel, where David was hosting a business mixer. The room buzzed with Nairobi's elite, politicians, investors, socialites. And there, at the center of it all, was David. He looked older. Worry lines creased his forehead. But he still had that same charming smile, the one that had fooled her into believing he loved her. Never again. Mr. Okonkwo, Sarah said, approaching with her hand extended. Sarah Mwangi, I've heard impressive things about your safari operations. David's eyes lit up as he took in her expensive clothes, her bearing. Miss Mwangi, the pleasure is mine. Are you in the tourism industry? Investments, actually. I'm looking to diversify my portfolio into experiential tourism. She smiled. And I have 20 million shillings burning a hole in my pocket. She watched greed and desperation war in his eyes. Greed won. Then we absolutely must talk. He placed his hand on her lower back, guiding her toward the bar. Let me tell you about the future of African safari experiences. As they talked, Sarah studied him, noted how his suit was slightly worn at the cuffs, how his shoes were polished but old, how he ordered the second cheapest whiskey, not the top shelf. He was drowning.
Good.
There's someone I'd like you to meet, David said after an hour of conversation. He gestured across the room. My wife, Zara. Sarah's blood turned to ice, but her smile never wavered. Zara Hassan glided over, still beautiful, draped in gold jewelry that probably cost more than David's car. But Sarah could see the brittleness in her smile, the way her eyes constantly scanned the room for threats. Darling, this is Sarah Mwangi. She's interested in investing. How wonderful, Zara said, her voice honey over steel. David's always looking for new opportunities. The emphasis on the word made Sarah wonder how many affairs David had had since Zara. Karma, it seemed, had a sense of humor. I'm looking forward to learning more, Sarah said. Perhaps we could arrange a site visit? I'd love to see your operations firsthand. Absolutely, David said eagerly. Why don't you come to our estate next week? We can show you the tea plantation and discuss the safari business properly. My estate, Sarah thought. My tea plantation. But she smiled sweetly. I'd be delighted. As she left the hotel that night, Sarah called Mama and Jerry. I'm in, she said quietly. He has no idea who I am. Be careful, child. Men like him are dangerous when cornered. So am I, Sarah replied. So am I. The gates of the Okonkwo estate opened slowly, revealing the sweeping driveway lined with jacaranda trees. Sarah's heart hammered as she drove toward the mansion, her father's mansion, stolen by a murderer. She'd walked these grounds as a bride. Now she returned as a ghost. David waited on the veranda, all smiles and charm. Sarah, welcome to our humble home. My home, she thought, but smiled graciously. It's magnificent. Zara appeared behind him, assessing Sarah with sharp eyes. Let me give you the tour while David prepares his presentation. Woman to woman. Sarah followed Zara through rooms she remembered from childhood. Her mother's piano was gone, replaced by modern art. Her father's study had become a home theater. Every trace of her family had been erased. You seem familiar, Zara said suddenly, watching Sarah's face. Have we met before? Sarah's blood chilled. I don't think so. I've been living abroad until recently. Zara's eyes narrowed. David's had so many business associates over the years. It's hard to keep track. They stepped onto the back terrace overlooking the tea fields. Sarah gripped the railing, remembering her father teaching her about the plants, the harvest seasons, the workers who'd known her since birth. This estate has an interesting history, Zara said, lighting a cigarette. David inherited it from his first wife. Poor thing died in an accident 9 years ago. She paused. Tragic, really. She was pregnant. Sarah's fingers tightened on the railing until her knuckles went white. How awful.
Yes.
Though between you and me? Zara leaned closer. Their marriage was falling apart. David said she was unstable. Probably jumped. She took a drag. But he got everything. So perhaps it worked out for the best. It took every ounce of Sarah's control not to throw Zara over the same railing. Instead, she smiled sadly. That must have been difficult for him. Oh, he recovered quickly enough. Bitterness crept into Zara's voice. We married within the year. Though lately, she stopped herself. Never mind. Let's go see David's presentation. But Sarah had heard enough. The cracks were showing. Zara suspected something was wrong in her marriage.
Perfect.
David's business presentation confirmed what Kamau had uncovered. The safari company was hemorrhaging money. Poor management, bad investments, and David's gambling habit had created a financial disaster. With your investment, David concluded desperately, we can turn this around. I just need capital to bridge the gap. I see. Sarah tapped her pen against her lips thoughtfully. And the tea plantation? How's that performing? Profitable, but we've had challenges. Labor issues mainly. Because you fired all the loyal workers who knew me, Sarah thought. I'd like to tour the plantation.
Meet the staff.
See the operations up close. Something flickered in David's eyes. Worry? Of course. Tomorrow? Perfect. That evening, Sarah drove to the workers' village at the edge of the plantation. She found who she was looking for, Joseph, her father's old foreman, now working reduced hours under David's management. Joseph, she said softly in Kikuyu, their shared language. It's me, Amara. The old man's eyes went wide. His mouth opened and closed. But you're dead, the master said. David lied. He pushed me off that cliff. He murdered my baby. She gripped his hands. I need your help to take back what's mine. Joseph's face hardened. Tell me what to do. Over the next 2 months, Sarah wove her web carefully. She invested enough to make David dependent on her, but not enough to save him. She befriended Zara, listening to her complaints about David's late nights and mysterious phone calls. She met with Detective Kamani, who never closed Amara's case, and gave him evidence of David's recent crimes: tax fraud, illegal land deals, bribery. And she waited. One night, Zara called her, drunk and crying. "Sarah, can you come over? David's gone again. And I need a friend." Sarah found Zara on the terrace with an empty wine bottle, mascara running down her face. "He's cheating on me, just like he cheated with me." "What do you mean?" "His first wife, Amara. We were having an affair while she was pregnant." Zara laughed bitterly. "I thought I'd won. But karma's real, isn't it? Now he's doing it to me." "Zara." Sarah sat beside her. "There's something I need to ask you about the day Amara died." Zara's head snapped up. "Why?" "Because I don't think it was an accident." Sarah watched her carefully. "And I don't think you believe it was either." Zara was silent for a long moment. Then, quietly, "He called me right before. Said he was taking her to the cliff. Said after today, we'd be free." Her voice cracked. "I didn't think he meant. I thought he was going to ask for a divorce. But he didn't."
No.
Tears flowed freely now. "And I've been living with that guilt ever since. I helped him plan it, Sarah. Not directly, but I knew. God help me. I knew he was capable of it, and I did nothing." Sarah's hands trembled with rage, but she kept her voice gentle. "Would you testify to that?" Zara looked up sharply. "What? If there was a way to make this right, to get justice for Amara, would you testify?" "Who are you?" Zara whispered, seeing something in Sarah's eyes that terrified her. Sarah smiled, and it was not kind. "Someone who crawled out of hell for revenge." The charity gala at the Norfolk Hotel was Nairobi's social event of the season. Everyone who mattered was there: politicians, business leaders, socialites. David had spared no expense, desperate to maintain appearances while his empire crumbled. Sarah arrived in a blood-red gown, diamonds at her throat. Beside her walked Detective Kamani in plain clothes, and behind them, a team of officers waited outside. David spotted her immediately, relief flooding his face. "Sarah, thank God. Did you bring the investment papers?" "I brought something better." She smiled. "The truth." Before he could respond, Sarah stepped onto the stage and took the microphone. The room fell silent. "Good evening. Most of you know me as Sarah Mwangi, investor. But that's not my real name." She reached up and removed the wig, revealing her natural hair beneath. "My name is Amara Okonkwo. And 9 years ago, my husband murdered me." Gasps rippled through the crowd. David's face went white. He started backing toward the exit, but police officers blocked his path. "That's impossible," he stammered. "Amara died. She fell. You pushed me." Amara's voice rang out clear and strong. "Off Hell's Gate Cliff. While I was 6 months pregnant with your daughter. You pushed me so you could steal my inheritance and marry your mistress." The crowd erupted in chaos. Cameras flashed. David lunged forward, but Kamani caught him. "But I survived," Amara continued. "I fell 200 feet into a spring pool. I lost my baby. I lost my face. I lost everything." She gestured to the screen behind her, where Kamau had prepared a presentation. "But I didn't lose my memory. And I didn't lose my will to see justice done." The screen filled with evidence: bank records showing David's embezzlement, recorded confessions from his accomplices, photos of his illegal activities. And finally, a video recording of Zara's confession from 3 days ago. "No!" David screamed. "She's lying. She's insane." "Detective Kamani has the evidence," Amara said calmly, "including testimony from workers who saw you arguing with me that day. Phone records showing you called Zara immediately after pushing me. And Zara herself, who's willing to testify about your premeditation." "You bitch." David broke free and rushed at Amara. "You should have stayed dead." But Amara stood her ground. As David reached for her throat, officers tackled him to the ground. David Okonkwo, Kamani announced, "You're under arrest for attempted murder, fraud, embezzlement, and conspiracy." As they dragged him away still screaming, Amara felt something she hadn't experienced in 9 years.
Peace.
Zara approached hesitantly. "I'm sorry. For everything. I was young and stupid and greedy." "You'll testify?" Amara asked.
Yes.
"It won't bring your baby back, but maybe." Zara's voice broke. "Maybe it's something." 6 months later, Amara stood at her daughter's grave, a small memorial sheet erected in the family's cemetery on the estate. The tea plant swayed in the breeze, healthy again under proper management. David was in prison for 25 years. Zara had testified and received a lighter sentence. The estate had been returned to Amara legally, and she'd begun rebuilding what her father had created. Mama and Jerry joined her, placing a hand on her shoulder. "You got your justice." "I did." Amara touched the gravestone. "But she's still gone."
Yes.
But her death wasn't meaningless. The old woman gestured to the workers' village, where new houses were being built. "Look at what you've created from that pain."
Jobs.
Hope. Justice. That's her legacy, too. Amara thought of the scholarship fund she'd established for pregnant women, the domestic violence shelter she'd funded, the women's cooperative she'd started at the plantation. Maybe Mama and Jerry was right. Maybe revenge had transformed into something better. Something that honored her daughter's memory. "I'm thinking about going back to teaching," Amara said quietly. "Good." Mama and Jerry smiled. The dead don't need revenge, but the living need purpose. As they walked back toward the house together, Amara looked up at the cliffs in the distance, the same cliffs that had tried to kill her. They didn't look frightening anymore. They looked like the place where she'd learned that falling wasn't the end. Sometimes it was just the beginning.